Thanks for tuning in. I'm Andy Zopp, and this is Chicago Newsroom 2.0. At the roundtable, we'll talk about the continuing saga that is city government, namely the mayor's not-so-warm relationship with recently terminated CPS CEO Pedro Martinez, his really close relationship with the powerful Chicago Teachers Union, and his challenged relationship with a governor whose support he'll need to court if he's going to secure needed funding for a school district and transit system inching closer to financial peril. We'll also talk about prostate health with Cook County Commissioner Bill Lowry and urologist Dr. Paul Yonover. If there is a black man in your life that you love, kindly position him in front of the screen for conversations that just might save his life. We'll get started on the other side of a short break. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Robin Robinson, inviting you to tune in to the new CAN TV original program, In Other News. Each week, I will break down newsworthy topics that traditional outlets may ignore, grounded in truth, fun, and blackness, from the trap house to the White House, with the big house in between. Join the conversation on CAN TV Cable Channel 19, or stream live on cantv.org or on the CAN TV Plus app. Hyper-local news and critical analysis. Experience the power of community television.
Prostate health is a critical issue that affects millions of men, but for black men, the stakes are particularly high. With a significantly increased risk of developing prostate cancer and facing disparities in diagnosis and treatment, it's a health concern that demands attention and action. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Paul Yonover, a leading urologist and the practice manager for Uro Partners, to discuss what black men need to know about their prostate health, the importance of early education, and how we can work to close the gaps in care. Welcome, Dr. Yonover. Nice to see you.
Very, very nice to see you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
First of all, let's just clarify for my watchers, what is a urologist?
Well, it's a great question. Many people don't know what a urologist is until they need one. We are surgeons and medical doctors who treat the genitourinary tract. So that's the kidneys, ureters, bladder, the prostate, testicles. We deal with all things that involve the urinary system, kidney cancer, bladder cancer, prostate cancer, which we're going to talk about today, urination issues, kidney stones, and a host of other things. But a lot of our work, for most general urologists like myself, we deal with urinary issues, and the bladder and the prostate are intimately related. So for men, urinary issues and prostate cancer, while not completely related, are very much overlapped.
Right.
So when people talk about prostate health, they really are talking about two different things, both the size of the prostate and the ability to eliminate urine and store urine by the bladder. And then, of course, prostate cancer is a cancer that's found within that gland. And that's what urologists both treat that health, and they screen for those tumors.
So I think everybody kind of knows what their bladder is. They've heard of a kidney. Mm-hmm. They may not really get what the prostate is, or where it is, or how it works, or how does it affect their bladder and using the things that they need to use.
Sure. Well, I'm not afraid to admit that I didn't know what a prostate was or where it was until I got to medical school. So it's an organ that is I brought a model with me, but it's an organ that sits at the outlet of the bladder. So here's the bladder, and here's the rectum. The prostate is here, and the only purpose of the prostate is for fertility. That's all it's there for. But because it's positioned outside the bladder, urine has to flow through the prostate. So it does impact urination. And in fact, the way that men are able to hold onto the urine is also controlled by the prostate. When men get assessed for prostate cancer and have their prostate felt, the reason why we have to do a rectal exam is because there's an intimate relationship between the rectum and the prostate. And so that's important for men to understand, is that's why, and this is a very high traffic area right in the pelvis, and that's why, that's how we have to access the prostate for screening purposes.
Wow. Well, that clearly makes a big difference.
Right.
Who knew? But why is this such an issue for black men? Why are they at increased risk? And are there things that black men can do to reduce their risk of prostate cancer?
Well, unfortunately, prostate cancer is one of those cancers where we can't really have a huge impact on the incidence from behavioral modification. A lot of cancers, lung cancer, bladder cancer, and other cancers, smoking modification, dietary modification, can make a big impact. Prostate cancer, there's not too much you can do from your lifestyle. There are things. Better eating, don't smoke, lose weight, exercise. Those are all very good. But the actual incidence of prostate cancer is higher in black men. We've known that for a long time. Why? We're not exactly sure. But scientists have sort of unraveled it's mostly genetic factors, not environmental factors. So black men, particularly black men from Western Africa, Eastern Africa descent typically doesn't have the same genetic risk factors. But if you're from of West African descent and you've come to the United States, you have almost a 1.7 times risk than your average Caucasian. Wow. That's driven by molecular and genetic issues. Where the problems we face in modern American medicine, particularly vis-a-vis black men, those men who are already at much higher risk of having the cancer aren't getting the screening. Right. There's lots of reasons why they're not getting screening: medical literacy, barriers to care, insurance issues, perceptions, mistrust of the medical system, well-deserved mistrust. Misunderstanding, understanding the difference between colon cancer screening, prostate cancer screening. These are all the barriers that we face, and that as a medical community, it's on us to help break those barriers down. The black men, though, are at higher risk of having the cancer. Once we find the cancer in those men, they have worse outcomes. The risk of death from prostate cancer is 2.5 times that of a Caucasian, and that isn't because of tumor biology. That's because of poor access to care. They're being diagnosed at a later stage, and they aren't afforded sometimes the cutting edge things that we have to offer, and that's where there's even a title of a...
I was just going to say, you told me about an article you read.
Yeah, there's I think the title says really it all, which is racism doesn't cause prostate cancer, but racism causes prostate cancer death. Wow. It's a very powerful message, and I think it was one that the medical community has to internalize, and we need to do something about.
Right, it matters because it is very treatable, prostate cancer, when caught early. Is that right?
And that's exactly right, and that's where the irony of all of this is the population that benefits the most from screening are black men. Right. So if you have black men between the ages of 40 and 75 who are healthy, if we can screen them appropriately, we can find the disease early, and only for those men who have aggressive disease do they need curative treatment, and if they do, they can be cured. Right. So a lot of prostate cancer death is avoidable.
It's preventable. Wow. So powerful. I wish, as I told you when we started, this is going to go fast. We run out of time on this really important topic, but thank you. Thank you for taking the time to come here and educate my audience around this issue, because it's so important. So if you're listening and you're a black man, or there's a black man in your life that you care about, I hope you heard what he said. Get screened for prostate cancer. Dr. Yonover, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll be right back on the other side of this short break. We'll continue this critical conversation when I'll be joined by Cook County Commissioner Bill Lowry, discussing his personal prostate cancer journey and what Cook County is doing to help men and women take fuller control of their health. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm financial expert Tamara Durbin, inviting you to join me each week for In the Money, the show that makes money management approachable and enjoyable. Join the conversation at 7 p.m. exclusively on CAN TV Cable Channel 19, or stream live on cantv.org or on the CAN TV Plus app. Elevated conversation and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
To continue our conversation on prostate health, I'm joined by a prostate cancer survivor who is using his incredible platform to improve health outcomes for men and women in Cook County, Commissioner Bill Lowry. Welcome to the newsroom.
Andy, it is so wonderful always to be with you, but certainly to have a chance to talk about this very important topic today.
Well, tell me about how you got passionate about helping people and really addressing health outcomes for people.
Well, let me just quickly talk about my own path.
Yes.
And it was October of 2019. And one thing I've always been good about, it's getting my annual physical. Yeah. So I'd gotten my physical, and I always do it in October because that's my birthday month. And at that time, my PSA level was determined. That's the prostate specific antigen test. And you want it to be 4 or below. And I was at 6.8. The digital exam was done by my physician. My prostate felt the way it should feel. But because of the high PSA, we took the next step. And that was a pelvic MRI, which showed that I had some inflammation around the prostate. Inflammation may mean you have prostate cancer. It may mean you just have inflammation.
Yeah.
But that led to the next step where a biopsy was taken. Not painful, but uncomfortable a little bit. And then I got a call from the radiologist about 5 days later. They said, no cancer. You exhale. 3 days later, my urologist called me from Bali. Now, when your urologist calls you from Bali, it's not to ask about Chicago weather.
That's not good.
And my urologist said, based on our second viewing, you do in fact have prostate cancer. We believe it's early. And prostate cancer is a very slow-growing cancer. Right. So we had the option of just surveillance, where they keep an eye on it, radiation, where you try to kill the cancer cells around the prostate, or removal. Right. And Cheryl and I had been blessed with our 3 kids. We weren't trying to have more, so we decided to have it removed. Got through the holidays, and I had my prostate removed January of 2020.
I understand you started recently a program called the Birthday Healthcare Screening Program. Tell us about it, and did this come as part of your own personal journey?
Well, it did, because during the course of finding out I had cancer, I didn't have symptoms. Yeah. So when we started the testing, which ultimately determined that I had cancer, I had to go in pocket, even though I had really good insurance. Right. And coming out of that, I said there has to be a way for individuals to find out what's going on inside of their body without having to pay thousands of dollars. Right. So that led me to present and pass unanimously my Cook County Birthday Health Screening resolution, which is now a program starting today. And pursuant to this program, patients and residents throughout all of Cook County will be able to receive either a mammogram or a prostate screening, whether they have insurance or not. And what I ask is individuals will call during their birthday month to set up either the mammogram or the prostate screening. And I do that because the almost 7 years I've been serving as commissioner, when I talk to groups, I say it's important that you get an annual physical. Right. And if at no other time, do it around your birthday. You don't forget your birthday. And gift yourself by doing it. So that's why we have started this program, which literally is launching today. And this program, I think, is going to do several things. It's going to foster early detection, overall wellness, preventative health care. And Andy, it's going to save lives and extend lives. Absolutely. As we speak right now, individuals living in Inglewood have a 30-year less life expectancy than those living in Edgewater. And it's important that individuals such as me do something about this, and this program will do just that. So I'm excited about it. It will be women who are 40 or above will be eligible for the mammogram, and men who are 45 and above will be eligible for the prostate screening.
And where do they call, or is there a website they can go
There is. First of all, you can go through cookcountyhealth.org. Okay. That's cookcountyhealth.org. Okay. Or you can call 312-864-4289. That's 312-864-4289 to set up your screening.
Wow, that's incredible. And screening is so important. And in our community, we're so hesitant to do these things. And now you have no excuse, people. It's free, F-R-E-E. So what a wonderful program, and how powerful it is. Because you're a walking testament, right?
Well, I am, and my message,
screening early.
My message to all the men is no man should die from prostate cancer. But for you to live my words, you have to know what's going on in your body. Knowledge is power. And it's important that I share this with all of our women, because it's often our women who make us take care of our health.
Right. It's really important on both fronts. Wow. Commissioner Lowry, thank you,
Thank you
first
for
of
having
all,
me.
for coming and talking about the program. Thank you for creating the program, and thank you for sharing your story, which is, as you know, our personal stories are what move people. So thank you.
Well,
Really
thank you for having me,
appreciate
my
you.
dear friend.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. On the other side of a short break, we'll do a temperature check of the mayor's current relationships with CTU, CPS, and Governor Pritzker. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Bianca Cotton. Join me Mondays at 7 p.m. as I sit in conversation with incredible, dynamic, and complex Chicagoans who peel back the layers, living lessons, the joy, and the pain behind their confident smiles. Join the conversation Mondays at 7 p.m. on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 and streaming on cantv.org and CAN-TV Plus app.
What is New Year, same drama? Answer, the current state of affairs on the 5th floor of City Hall. In case you missed some of the more recent twists and turns in the ongoing saga, the mayor's hastily installed school board gave CPS CEO Pedro Martinez his walking papers just days before Christmas. In return, Martinez secured a temporary injunction from the courts, forcing said board to stay away from the ongoing contract negotiations with the powerful and vocal Chicago Teachers Union. Over at City Hall, the mayor, on a rare media tour, continued to be dogged by questions from the media surrounding his employment status at CPS and the potential conflict of interest it creates. There's also the nagging issue of what appears to be a growing and increasingly more public schism between the mayor and the governor. The very governor whose support Johnson desperately needs if he's ever going to achieve the full school funding he purports to want. Also at stake in Springfield this session will be the funding and future of the CTA, which is also facing a significant funding gap. To help make sense of it all, I'm joined by roundtable regulars Hugo Balta, publisher of Latino News Network, Morgan Malone, executive director of City Bureau, Ashley Munson, host of the very popular CAN-TV program Munson Tonight, and joining us for the first time, Sufyan Sohel, commissioner with Cook County Commission on Human Rights. Hugo, Morgan, Ashley, Sufyan, welcome. All right, let's get to it. So let's start with the firing of Pedro Martinez. So we talked about that many times. We talked about it a lot. It finally happened, and so what do we think? It happened, but then the court said he can stay, and you can't mess with what he's doing. So it still seems pretty messy. Good for the mayor? I mean, bad? How bad for the mayor? Or I don't know. We'll start.
What's old is new with the mayor in regards to the mess that he honestly created last year when it comes to Pedro Martinez. And Pedro Martinez said he was going to sue. So this is a fight that the mayor knew was coming. And then to have, most recently, board members attend a negotiating meeting without the explicit permission of the superintendent just continues to add on to a relationship that had gone bad, as opposed to waiting through the proper process, the new board, and let the new board decide. And really, strategically, the mayor should have distanced himself, because he already had set in place the board in order to act his wishes in regards to Pedro Martinez. But now, it's like an avalanche. There's no stopping it. It's just destruction in its wake.
Right. The new board's been sworn in, yes. Mm-hmm. So they've started, right? I served on the school board during contract negotiations many times. It would never occurred to me to actually go to a contract negotiation. Doesn't that, in and of itself, I'm like, why are you even there?
That's what doesn't make sense. I think many of us have served on nonprofit boards or been executives of organizations, and there seems to be that disconnect where I would never, as a board member, impose on the organization's well-being by being in a space where I was invited by the executive who I hired to do this work, and it just doesn't make sense why this is happening.
Right. I mean, you deal with that by approving the contract or not approving it once they've negotiated it. It's kind of, but it is a part of a bigger issue. So how about this issue with the mayor's job, his former job? Is that going to and just his relationship with the CTU? Is that undercutting him, Ashley, you think?
You know, it's Chicago where everything is made up and the points don't matter. Yeah. Just go from whose line is it anyway? You know, I think everything that this mayor is doing is unprecedented and it's not traditional. So I think it's a conflict of interest, but I think we can all just take it day by day and see what happens. To the school board point, to the relationship, I know we're going to talk about it with the governor. I just think we got to see how all these things play out. So I'm interested to see where it goes to.
But interestingly enough, it is precedented. You know, Chicago has a lot of rules about Chicago police officers and Chicago firefighters being able to not only be aldermen, but collect their pension. Alderman Sposato started collecting his pension on top of his city council salary in 2019. And they voted on fire and police contracts this entire time. And so now it's coming to light because the mayor is doing it. But we actually have a number of aldermen, Gardner and a number of others, who are impacted by these rules. And so much so that the state changed the rules about pensions so that city council members could be considered active firefighters and police, and their pensions have even more benefits than the municipal one. And so now it's coming to light that the mayor's on leave with CTU, but it's actually common practice for elected officials and has been for over 15 years. It's just been overlooked.
Yeah, I think in there's a lot of alignment there, which I think is a really great point, that there is some conflict there. Don't you think it's a little bit different though when you're talking about negotiating a contract that's going to have broad with your employee, basically your employer is a little bit different than voting on your pension, right? Yeah. You're like,
I agree. I think just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And I think the notion that it's CTU negotiating with CTU is valid. Yeah. So I believe the mayor had said when he was campaigning to be elected that he was going to step down. Right. He didn't come through with that promise. Yes, he could do it, but I think if I'm in a situation that I'm continuously being my credibility is being chipped away and my relationship to coalesce is being chipped away, why not make the steps either to be completely transparent or step down from that position and have the transparency that needs to happen and the distance for the negotiation happen.
That's fair.
I think fair.
I think to that point, I think if we were in a different climate with our mayor, maybe it wouldn't be as contentious. I fully agree, you're part of CTU, you probably shouldn't be doing that at all, but maybe if it didn't seem like an avalanche and all these things happening, maybe this would be a different discussion.
Sure. Agreed. I feel like he's just doubling down with that relationship with CTU more and more in every aspect, and it's just making things harder for him.
The political climate around his relationship to CTU, I find that it's interesting that this is such a stark relationship for people where they're just holding on to it really tight. And that doesn't mean it's not an important relationship because we're in the middle of contract negotiations, but I think it's really interesting that all of a sudden, like CTU, teachers are super polarizing, and it's not that CTU hasn't been polarizing, but now there's this larger conversation about teachers being polarizing and his relationship to that and being in control of the contract. And I don't think anyone ever thought that teachers would be a polarizing conversation, but it is.
No, I think you're totally right. And look, I think when you listen to President Gates, Stacey Davis Gates, a lot of the things they're asking for are make sense. They will benefit students. I think the challenge is sometimes you do have to, just as a practical matter, recognize the costs and how do you get to the at least you can't always get everything right and so I think that's the and also it's the drama. People are just exhausted from the drama, right?
Sure.
In general, just at the local level as much as at the national level. Let's move on to, because we're talking a little bit about some of the challenges that feels a little bit like are self-inflicted by the mayor. And let's talk about his relationship with the governor. There was this big split or fight in Springfield over the hemp, intoxicating hemp bill, it turns out the governor and the mayor were on two different sides, and the governor ultimately lost that fight, which is really unusual and rare for that to happen. Is this going to be a big deal? Because let's face it, the mayor needs the governor. If we're going to get support for not only funding for CPS, but CTU. There's I'm sorry, not CTU, but the CTA. There's issues there. So how impactful is this going to be? What do you think, Ashley?
Yeah, I'm thinking from a lens from Governor Pritzker, right? He has higher aspirations. So I think his future lens is to make things work for the state, and that includes Chicago, and to do the best he can. I think the mayor has a year or so to try to make things happen to end his reign. That's so dictatorship, but in his term with some good things happening. And I think the speaker, who was in the news talking about his relationship with the governor, I think him and Pritzker are more likely to be on the same page. But I think all around, what's going to happen is Pritzker's going to do what's best for him because of his aspirations. The mayor has to figure out something, and Welch is going to be Welch. He's going to figure it out, get the legislators on board. They need to be on board because his relationship with Pritzker matters the most to him.
Right.
So I just don't understand why they have each other's phone numbers. Why aren't they picking up the phone and talking to each other? I think I read somewhere that the mayor reached out to the governor directly 5 times or something like that. And why are they letting it escalate to this point when they're of the same party? They have the state's and the city's best interests together. Why aren't they having effective communication with one another?
That'd be too easy. Too easy. And the IGA team is gone. With Sidney Holman stepping down, and that's a whole nother. Who is supposed to be talking? I feel like at this point, who's supposed to be talking to the state? I'm not even really sure whose role it is anymore.
Right. Well, he appointed a new person, at least one new team, a new woman whose name's going to escape me right now. But I know he did appoint someone and a couple people. But a lot of the people don't have the same kind of experience that the original team have. I don't know, Hugo. How does the mayor, if he wants to get some things done in Springfield, what do you think? Is this correctable?
Well, I think it's also the optics of it. For the governor to be vocal about a lack of communication between himself and the mayor, you start to wonder what's really happening behind the scenes. And then you talk about the CTA chief. You have the mayor speaking his praises when we know the governor has been public about being critical about the CT president, all to the point of last year saying he should be stepping down or there should be a change in leadership. And then maybe like a week later, he announces he's going to retire. So maybe there's some truth to the governor saying that the mayor doesn't have the relationships that he needs in Springfield. So how do you repair that? You physically spend more time in Springfield and make it a point to be very public about the conversations that you're having and the coalitions that you're building. I think it's one thing to say it, and it's a different thing to do it. Show me, don't tell me.
Right.
That.
Yeah. I mean, Maureen, you've always been thoughtful about the fact that the mayor has a different approach, and people need to be, that different is not bad, right? And I really appreciate that perspective and agree with. So, what are your thoughts?
I think that, to your point, you have to be publicly building coalitions. If you say, I'm collaborating with everyone, and then everyone comes back out and says, I don't even hear from you, and I'm not aligned, or I didn't know anything about it, it just looks crazy. Right. And I don't know if the conversations aren't happening all the way around. Like, I would be shocked if he didn't know that Dorval was leaving. Like, that feels really wild to not know about. Right. But I do think that when the public sees you in LA or in other places, and then the governor says you don't have a relationship in Springfield, people are like, then where are you spending your time? Right. Because interestingly enough, this is a big pivot from Lowry and Rahm. We used to see press conferences of Lowry and Rahm every day, almost every other day. Right. Granted, Lowry was leading during a pandemic, but it was like always some update, some news, some crane, some something. Right. When you don't really see that saturated, you're wondering, well, what are people doing?
Right. It's so important. Relationships and communicating, really important. And I would love to talk about it some more, but we are out of time. I cannot thank all of you enough for being here. As usual, it was terrific and insightful. And you did manage to jump in, Sufyan. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. And as always, Chicago, thank you for tuning in. We used our time this week for these important conversations, so no final thoughts this week. But I'll be back next week with an all-new edition of Chicago Newsroom 2.0. Until then, be well and well informed.